I died in the year he hated me the most. I was unable to bear his hatred any longer, so I chose to end my life. When the funeral home handed my ashes to Harris Clark, he gently patted the urn, revealing the only smile of that day. "It's too filthy. She should be completely obliterated." With a flip of his hand, the urn clattered to the ground. Indeed, he believed I had caused the death of his beloved. He had lingered by my side for years just for this moment. He walked away over my ashes, yet soon after, he wept and begged the funeral home to return me to him. 1. After enduring a year of torment from Harris, I finally died. I took advantage of his inattention and secretly slit my wrists in the bathtub. The blood filled the tub, reminiscent of the day I miscarried in sorrow after learning why he had married me. Good riddance. Harris clapped his hands and laughed, his bright eyes turning bloodshot. As he laughed, tears began to fall. I think he must have remembered his long-lost love, Monarch Peaks. 6 years ago, she died in a car accident, and her heart was transplanted into me. Harris always believed the accident was staged and thought I had caused the death of his beloved. So, he deliberately got close to me and subjected me to endless torment after our marriage. He even planned to make my entire family pay for their lives. He had bided his time, rising from a poor boy to a prominent figure in maybe. Once he had the power to challenge my family, he showed his fangs. Like a mad dog, he relentlessly pursued my family. But today, it all ended, because I died on the very night he was about to strike. 2. Harris remained eerily calm upon hearing news of my death. He simply instructed his assistants, Oscar Lewis, to send me to the funeral home immediately. When he saw me again, I was already a handful of ashes in a small box. "Give my sister back to me." As soon as we stepped out of the funeral home, Troy, my big brother, who had always doted on me, threw a punch at Harris's face. But he was quickly subdued by security guards and collapsed to the ground, utterly devastated. "Your sister is here." Harris patted the urn and then stepped on Troy. "She was filthy and deserved to be ground into dust." With that, he turned his hand over and knocked over the palm-sized box, scattering ashes all over the sky. I knew Harris hated me, but I didn't know it was to this extent. As my ashes scattered, I couldn't help but cry. I had truly loved him for 2 years, and this was the end I got. Harris's expensive leather shoes moved off Troy, and he continued his coldly sneer. "If you love her so much, why not let the entire Madison family be buried with her?" So, even in my death, he hadn't given up on destroying the Madison family. Troy slumped to the ground, snot and tears streaming down his face. "You'll regret this. You'll regret this. I'll never regret it." Harris stepped on my ashes and left the funeral home. Troy shed all his pride as the eldest son of the Madison family and cried uncontrollably. "I'm sorry." I silently repeated it 100 times in my heart. The tears wouldn't stop. I felt my ashes drifting to various parts of the forest. A tiny wisp landed in a wild dog's food bowl and ended up in the dog's stomach. Others landed on the mountainside, in ditches, on trees. The last wisp clung to his lapels and sawls, returning with him to the place we had once shared. 3. Our marital home was a villa nestled halfway up a mountainside. When we first got married, I thought he chose this place with its clear mountains and beautiful waters for my health because he knew I was unwell. It wasn't until I gradually lost touch with the outside world that I realized this was also part of his plan. After all, I was the most favored youngest daughter of the Madison family, and only by isolating me from the world could Harris's plan be more successful. His revenge would be all the more meaningful. I followed Harris inside the villa, entering through the door with him. There were no servants in the villa, and I did all the housework myself. He seemed stunned as he changed his shoes and let out a sneer and quickly put them on. "Helena, you really died a good death." I curled my lips in disdain and angrily followed him, stepping on his shadow. "Harris, you jerk." Even in death, he still hated me so much. Harris opened the refrigerator and poured himself a drink. As he put the bottle down, he noticed the sticky note on the front of the fridge. "Honey, I made your favorite milk puffs today. Remember to eat them." The date was December 28th, the night before I died. Harris's eyes darkened, and he crumpled the note, throwing it into the trash. He didn't even glance at my puffs. To please him, I had even made the puffs in the shape of hearts. He used to love them the most, but now he didn't even care. It seemed that loving the food I made was just another one of his ways to deceive me. 4. For some unknown reason, Harris had been sullen ever since he saw the sticky note. He lay on the couch for a long time, staring at the butterfly chandelier above his head. If he could see supernatural things, he should also be able to see me sitting on the butterfly's wings, watching him. This was something we bought together before we got married, and I loved it. Miraculously, he also fell in love with this butterfly chandelier. At that time, I was overjoyed that I had finally reached a consensus with him, not knowing that his sweetheart was named Monarch, the name of a butterfly. I had asked him about his first love when I was jealous after we got married. He lay on the couch and his arm pillowing me. He stared blankly at the ceiling and said, "My first love flew away as a butterfly." My heart tightened, and my desire to sacrifice myself grew even more vital. I kissed his eyes and counseled him over and over again. "Can I be your butterfly? My parents all say I'm the most cheerful person in our family. I can definitely make you happy." He didn't say anything. He just hugged me and trembled. He listened to my heartbeat against my chest. His hands gripped me so tightly that even though it hurt, but I didn't ask him to let go, because I interpreted his suppressed resentment as being moved by me. Falling in love had the power to cloud one's judgment. I deserved to be treated like this by him later. After watching for about an hour, Harris finally decided what to do next. I didn't intend to follow him, but it seemed like I could only follow within 3 feet of him. I'm at the bathroom door now, listening to the sound of running water inside. A minute later, the sound of bottles and cans falling to the ground made me feel creepy. I flew open the door and saw Harris with bloodshot eyes. He looked at the crimson in the entire bathroom, and his face finally showed a distorted expression. 5. My death was sudden and unexpected. There was no one else in the villa. If it hadn't been for Oscar returning to fetch some documents, my death wouldn't have been discovered so quickly. From the time of my death to the time I was reduced to ashes, only a dozen or so hours had passed. Everyone had overlooked the fact that the place where I died had not been cleaned up. So, the bathroom that Harris saw now was a classic murder scene. "Helena!" He roared into the air, startling me so much that my soul almost left my body again. "What are you yelling falling for, I muttered to myself. After my body softened, I sank into the bathtub. It wasn't that dirty outside. Couldn't he just clean it up himself? But Harris obviously couldn't hear my muttering, and he had no intention of cleaning up either. He trembled with anger and immediately pulled out his phone to call Oscar, not even noticing when the bathroom door had opened. Find me another house right away. I'm moving out tomorrow. After he finished speaking, he slammed the phone down, shattering it into pieces. I had never seen Harris so manic. Close call. I patted my non-existent heartbeat, trying to calm myself down. It wasn't until Harris left that I squatted down masochistically and stirred the blood in the bathtub. This was the second time I had seen such a scene. The first time was when I accidentally learned that Harris only married me for revenge. At that time, I was in a daze and accidentally fell into the bathtub. Blood flowed everywhere, and I just learned that the life I had just discovered was strangled. The second time was when I committed suicide. I fell into a coma early and let the blood flow freely. I never thought I'd witness such a tragic scene with my own eyes. Harris, I looked at his back. If you find out one day that her death is not because of me, will you regret it? 6. Harris and I spent an excruciating night in that house. He woke up early in the following morning. He changed his clothes and set off on foot for the back mountain. I heard him call Oscar and tell him to clear everything out of the house. He didn't want to see anything that belonged to me anymore. In fact, I didn't think Harris would move out of the villa because of his first love, which had turned into a butterfly and flown away, was buried in the back mountain of our villa. Mona, she's dead. Harris squatted in front of the grave, his fingers gently caressing the tombstone. On the tombstone was a photo of a beautiful girl with a lively and cheerful smile. Unfortunately, her life was forever frozen at the age of 20. I finally avenged you, he muttered to himself, lost in thought for a long time. For some reason, Harris was prone to daydreaming these days, as if his whole body had been emptied, losing his soul. Of course, I didn't think it had anything to do with me. I guessed it was just the emptiness he felt after getting his revenge. For the past few years, he had lived on his hatred for me. Now that I was dead, it was only natural that he would be slow to react. Harris didn't leave the back mountain until the sun was rising. When he returned, he didn't enter the villa but went straight to the garage and drove away. When I saw that the destination was an old, dilapidated apartment building in the suburbs, I knew what Harris was up to. Following his memory, he knocked on the door of Monarch's house. Unfortunately, there was no answer. Harris tried a few more times but still didn't get a response, so he increased the force of his knocking, slightly irritated. This time, he woke up the neighbors. What the? The neighbor's voice stopped, staring in disbelief at the once poor and humble boy. He now looked like a big boss, so the neighbor swallowed back his dirty words. Where are this family? Harris asked coldly. The Peaks family? The neighbor sneered, rolling his eyes. Then he replied, with the money they sold their daughter for, they're living a good life. Harris's brow furrowed as if he could no longer accept their blunt and vulgar words. Where did they go? I don't know. What are you questioning me for? Who are you? The neighbor started to look at Harris with displeasure. I'm their daughter's boyfriend. You? The neighbor's eyes gleamed with gossip. He said, so you're the one who was cheated by the Peaks. It's a pity that little Monarch was born into the wrong family and was just traded by her heartless parents. I gasped and quickly looked at Harris's face. Harris's eyes were about to split open. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and squeezed out a word. Traded? 7. On the way back, Harris drove at an unprecedented speed. His face was also grimmer than ever. Before, I was only convinced that I didn't kill his white moonlight, but I really didn't know how much more was hidden in this matter. Harris sped all the way and finally stopped at my doorstep. The Madison Manor of the past was much more lonely now. Harris even didn't see a servant all the way in. Harris, you dare to come here. Troy grabbed his collar and punched him. Get away. Harris's expression was sullen. He said coldly, I don't want to fight with you today. Tell me, how did Helena's heart come from? How did it come from? Troy laughed maniacally, breaking the jar and reminding him, of course it came from your lover. After that, he punched Harris again. They wrestled together with red eyes. I stood aside at a loss, unable to persuade or pull them apart. Stop. A familiar voice rang in my ears, and I almost burst into tears immediately. It was my father, Leon. He has aged considerably, and his voice has grown weathered as well. He took out a surgical contract from a few years ago and a donation contract that I had never seen before and threw them in front of Harris. Helena's heart was donated through legal channels. I gave the family $10 million in gratitude after the fact. All the procedures are here. What else do you want to ask? No way. Harris flipped through the documents with trembling hands, his face becoming paler and paler. I also stood aside nervously, not knowing how to face such a reversal. I was happy to be proven innocent, but who can compensate me for my suffering over the past year? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Harris lost his mind and just kept repeating this sentence. A moment later, the phone rang just in time. Mr. Clark. Oscar, on the other side, was a little hesitant. We found the Mrs. Clark's prenatal care report.